Dustin DeVan, welcome to the Pre-Construction Podcast.
It's good to be here. Excited about this.
CEO of Ediphi, the belle of the ball of advancing pre-construction in Denver last week or last month.
Those are your words, not mine.
So I didn't get a chance to catch up with you then, but we're catching up now, and I can't wait to get into this. Now, for anybody that has been living under a rock and doesn't know who this man is, I'm going to give you a quick bio, and then we're going to go all the way back to the very beginning, and then we're going to get straight into Ediphi. So Dustin started building Connected in 2012. The first cloud-based precon bidding tool, raised, I think, 52 million at VC, then sold to Autodesk in 2019 for 275 million. What a success story, amazing. But I want to bring you back to the start now in your degree, Dustin. Was it always construction for you? I mean, aeronautical graduate from University of California. Tell us the thoughts behind that.
No, I had no intention to ever get into construction management because I didn't know what construction management actually meant. I studied mechanical engineering and aeronautical and science engineering. I also got published in mathematics. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I figured if you took two engineering degrees and you graduated with them, whatever career you applied for, at least they know you were intelligent. Ultimately, when I started getting towards the end of my college career, I realized I didn't want to be an aeronautical engineer, like a rocket scientist, because I'd have to go to 4 more years to work on the really cool stuff. And it just wasn't the life I wanted. So actually just at a career fair, I was in a fraternity, and someone who who was running the career fair for Bechtel stopped by the fraternity because he was an old alumni. Nice. And I talked to him at the career fair, and I started the interview process. And then I took a look at Bechtel and the projects they were working on, and I was like, actually, construction sounds kind of exciting. And so that was my first job out of college, was a scheduling engineer for Bechtel. Right. And then Bechtel's not your typical GC. They're an EPC. They moved me to Maryland, and I only worked for them for 1 year. And then they wanted to send me to Libya. And I was 23 years old. There's no way in hell I was going to Libya.
What an experience that would have been.
Yeah, they pay you a ridiculous sum of money to go to these places, and it's like not taxed. But I just was not going to spend my 23 through 26-year-old years in a desert. So after that, I joined a typical general contractor working on hospitals and high-end projects, and did that for 5 years.
I'm not messing with you. I would love to have seen the reality TV of you in Libya. Mathematics genius trying to work out the sand and the local culture and language.
Oh God! So I had so many friends that did go to that project, and then they all got evac'd when we bombed Gaddafi.
Oh, sure, right. So they didn't last long.
No, they were there for. So I was supposed to go in 2007 or 8. They were there like 4 or 5 years.
Oh, nice. All right, cool. So they actually overstayed their welcome. So you'd have been there up until 27, 28. Wow, yeah. Yeah, good choice.
Yeah, good choice.
Yeah. So listen, obviously project engineer, 5, 6 years. Then what was the thinking going into building Connected? Was that something that you had experienced while a project engineer? Was it a problem that you foresaw? Because I would imagine, obviously, being in the pre-construction side, did your project engineering experience involve a little bit of precon? How did that come about?
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting, right? Because I actually wasn't in estimating or precon officially. But through the financial crisis, you get looped in. When you don't have projects, you get brought into precon to find projects. So that was my first introduction to what precon was. And it was actually working on hard bids, which was not traditionally at the GC. We worked on projects that we pursued. However, we were trying to diversify and go after everything. And so my first foray was we went after, I think it was like $100 million prison. And we were just trying to find contractors, and our bid management database didn't actually have contractors in these areas. So I was like Google searching and like calling builders exchanges or building product suppliers. And the first time I had the thought of building Connected, that was like back in 2009 even, was thinking, man, we're trying to spend $100 million and I have to go out and source people for this. That's stupid. So It took a long road to translate that into, oh, how to build a viable business, because I didn't actually launch Building Connected until March of 2012. But that was the first like aha moment that like something's structurally wrong with how we communicate in this space.
Yeah, that was the problem you were going to see. You were going to find a solution to. So
Mhm.
Building Connected was basically built out of a jail. Yeah, that's good. I like it. So the the Building Connected comes along. Obviously, it's massively successful.
Not at first.
Go ahead, sir.
Not at first, but
All
yes,
right,
long road.
tell us about the roller coaster.
Um, so let's see. I quit my job in March of 2012. I didn't have a co-founder then. For 6 months, I was working with a team of developers. We got what we thought was an MVP to market. That didn't work at all. I went from broke to really broke. I was had to move several times. I had to sleep in an ex-girlfriend's house. I had to sleep on somebody's couches. But ultimately, I recruited a buddy, Jesse, and he didn't join me until the very next year. So March of 2013. We didn't even actually get our first GC until almost the end of that year using the software. So it was like 18 months before we even had one general contractor ever use us on a project. And so, yeah, it wasn't always uh, 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 roses and rainbows. It's a struggle.
Was there ever a time, Dustin, that you thought, you know what, does the market even need this, or will I pivot to something else? Was there any of that kind of crossroads where you thought, is this actually worth it? Because I can imagine going around and sleeping in your girlfriend's room, and you know what I mean, just kind of getting
Yeah.
by. It's not nice.
No, and I'll tell you why. Because even though I thought like all the other bid managements were structurally wrong in that we should communicate on a network, um, it was not only they're structurally wrong, but they're terrible pieces of software. You said it was the first cloud-based solution. That's not actually true. But the cloud solutions out there had no idea how to build software. Their UI and UX were horrible. So even though I thought underlying they're structurally wrong, I figured we could still beat them even if I did the exact same structure and just build products that actually work really well. So that never actually crossed my mind.
Good. So it was either one way or the other. It makes sense. I mean, and not only that, but having that confidence that the product that you're going to build could either be really successful or go to the moon. It's always a nice fallback.
It is.
Cool. So I mean, obviously, massively successful, 52 million in VC. What I want to kind of gauge is what was so successful building Connected that you thought, you know what, I've done, because again, it was your first startup, it was your first venture in the entrepreneurship. What did you do so well at building Connected? What did you learn that you're going to try and replicate now in Ediphi?
So I actually kind of alluded to it there. A lot of construction software companies think you win by features. I believe you win by creating great user experiences and helping people accomplish their job as efficiently as possible. If you were to compare Building Connected to any other bid solution on the market, bar none, you can invite subcontractors to bid on your project faster using that software than any other solution out there. Now, even today, you could go to other solutions and say, you know what, they have more functionality, but that doesn't, it's like Excel. You can do almost anything Excel, but Google Sheets, it's fine for me and fine for 99.9% of the people out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people miss that. It's like you don't just win on features, you win on the user experience and connecting the important dots in the meaningful ways so that users can intuitively get on that product. Because right, wrong, or indifferent, yeah, you're going to have the people that just know those products, but they're going to have to churn over people a lot. And there's a learning curve. And if you can bring that learning curve down, you're going to do very, very well.
Very good. I like that. So that's what people kind of expect at Ediphi. You mentioned there as well, you didn't have a co-founder at the beginning. Is that something that you wanted to get right at Ediphi?
So 100%, I think startups almost always should have a technical and a non-technical founding team. There's actually not a lot of examples of that not being true. So yes, I mean, I did bring on a co-founder of Building Connected. He's the most amazing human ever. Jesse is just he's the only person I've ever seen that could be the VP of engineering, the VP of product, or the VP of design. He's like a unicorn for an early stage company. I have another unicorn as a co-founder because Mike Navarro is the CTO. And so you never are going to find an estimator, because he was an 18-year estimator, more technically capable of writing code and getting in there and rolling up his sleeves and actually building product. So yeah, I've been blessed, and truthfully, a lot of success is owed to them, and I feel like I get a little more notoriety, but they deserve equally as much.
Good. And I like the shout out as well. So how did you go about putting that team together? I know there was kind of this connection with Suffolk and obviously run by John Fisk. How did that all come about? And tell me how important it was getting that team together.
So a lot of credit is owed to John, actually. John's an amazing human, and I'm glad he did this. So back at Building Connected, I always wanted to get into estimating, and I tried to get Autodesk into estimating. They wanted to do it through the acquisition route, which they did. They bought a tool called ProEst. When I left Autodesk, I started working with, I had another stint of a hardware software company that epic success, then epic fail. We can talk about that another time. But then I started working with Suffolk Ventures. And so they wanted someone on the West Coast, someone that had been investing in startups, someone who had a successful exit. So I checked all these boxes. And as I start working with them, they start explaining to me some of their internal data strategies at the company, at the construction company. And so when they went to market to purchase estimating tools, they basically wrote off every single product in the market, because our competition is not actually in the cloud. They're these on-prem desktop solutions that you like create a Citrix login in order to access their software. They'll use the term like it's cloud-based, but that's not cloud software. There's a distinct difference.
And from the user point of view, sorry, I like that point, right? From the user point of view, what's the difference? Obviously, is it again come back to speed?
It's a lack of speed and performance, but also means you're operating on a virtual desktop. So what the biggest problem is, actually it creates its own data silo, because there's no way, because everyone else is in the normal cloud and they're in their cloud. And so how are you going to connect those applications via API? You're not. So you're going to have to write all of your own ways to transpose that data. That's why you see they don't actually integrate with Procore or Autodesk or some of the big ERP solutions or some of the other applications out there, because it's impossible to really do. You have to do it one-off situations.
Wow. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah.
So when I started working with Suffolk, I started Ventures, the venture fund, completely independent of Suffolk Construction, but mutually shared. There's just ways to create a lot of leverage there, because John's one of the big LPs in the fund. I started talking with Mike Navarro, who had been working on this project internally to develop their own estimating tools. And John, to his credit, did some background checks on me, and we got to know each other. And I started working with Mike and Scott, who's the head of precon there, who was the main architect behind how this would function. And we started kicking the can. Okay, Dustin, if you come in here, what would you do if we wanted to actually make this an independent company? And there are a lot of things when you develop software as an internal tool versus if you develop software for our customers that you have to account for, which they had not, and there's no reason they would have. So we started working on a plan on what this would look like to take this software and build a business around this software and make Suffolk a customer. And so we spent like 6 months, maybe 9 months working on developing a plan and executing on it. And so basically we started beginning of 2023 working on that. And then we're here today.
Wow. How exciting was that? I mean, obviously Building Connected went so well. You've now got the backing of John and Suffolk as the first customer to be able to beta test on it. What an opportunity.
Well, I mean, I feel very privileged in that I found the team that was working on the right solution for a space that I know intimately well. And we have like a shared vision of the way the future of precon. And we are bucketed into estimating tools, but I consider us a precon application because we're connecting a lot more dots than just estimating. Yes, it's very lucky, but I think in life people make their own luck. I've spent a lot of years connecting the dots in construction and building what I think's a decent reputation. So I think the stars aligned, and John recruits some of the best people, and I think the best people like working with each other. So I think we're
There's no
building a
such
great
thing
team.
as luck, Dustin. You know yourself. You work for it. You get your name out there. You get people references, referrals. I mean, you're obviously in California. It's a small space. I would imagine the pre-con tech space over there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It is. It's very small.
And that's interesting. I want to talk to you on that as well because it is basically Ediphi. It says on the website and LinkedIn, cloud-based estimating software.
Mhm.
Obviously, that's the solution that you want to fix. What else within Precon? I mean, what does it tie into? I mean, let's talk data, the flow of data. I mean, that's what all the estimators, the Precon managers listening here now, they want to be able to conceptually estimate at breakneck speed. That's a fundamentally what they want.
So, okay, yeah, that's interesting because what does estimating even mean? There's different approaches to estimating. You just said conceptual estimating, right? There's parametric estimating, there's programmatic estimating, there's detailed cost estimating. So even the words that you use in front of estimating can change what you think you even need to accomplish. Um, so I would say when I say we're a pre-construction software and eventually a pre-con platform, is we're not going to be able to build everything you do in pre-con. It's the same way like Procore or Autodesk don't provide you everything you do in design or project management. Like let's take the Procore platform. They have a lot of applications that integrate with them. They chose specific functions and workflows that they thought were critical for them to own, and then they've allowed other people to develop outside of those. So the way we're looking at Ediphi is we have core competencies that we want to own, and then we want to integrate with the other data that you need to communicate with the estimate in order to get to a GMP or a contract with the client. So that's the way we're thinking about it. Because right now today, there is no pre-con platform. There is no pre-con platform because the estimate is either in Excel or it's behind these desktop applications, which we just discussed. There's no way to make data interoperable with everyone else. So that's why a platform doesn't exist, because the estimate is not liberated and it's not data interoperable between other applications. So because of that, we have a fundamental problem in that it's very difficult for a GC to track what is the cost history and how did it evolve with every milestone change with their client and the reasons why. And you have like value engineering communication tools, but they don't have the estimate. You have the estimate down here. You have conceptual modeling tools over here. You have some programmatic or some parametric design applications that are supposed to spit out costs. All of these things aren't thinking about like providing one true cost throughput. And that's kind of how we're thinking about it.
Brilliant. Yeah. So you've basically gone for the gold. You've gone for the data, the estimate, and then you're going to let the rest kind of integrate. Very nice. Okay, cool. And is that
Well, we've chosen four pillars to start with.
Yeah.
So we do cost modeling. So in that, every estimate that you have in Ediphi, you're able to benchmark for cost modeling purposes down the road. So if you think about it from a linear perspective, you can run your cost modeling through Ediphi. Then we're very, very good at helping you do early conceptual parametric estimating, and then spinning that out into detailed cost estimating. And then we allow you to build out your general conditions and general requirements, which is not what you see in a lot of estimating tools. And then push out all of your estimates into your trade packages to do your subcontractor buyout. We don't do invitation to bid right now.
Nice. Is that down the line?
That's there's a company I heard of pretty good. We might integrate with.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, no, and listen, that makes sense. So that you've got four. Obviously, is it a case of mastering those four and then seeing what's going to happen, or is there a clear roadmap of 6, 7, 8?
We just got back from our exec offsite. I can tell you through this year and next year, we're taking on no more core competencies. We want to make those work fluidly and seamlessly together. I talked about UX at the beginning of this. That would be my one caveat on what Mike developed. They focused a lot on features. Now we're focused on functionality for the client, for the user. So we're going to make everything work seamlessly together. We're going to start thinking about actually the progression more and focused on what are the right data inputs. For example, There's a lot of pull for us to integrate with cloud takeoff solutions. And so we will be doing some of that actually quite soon.
Brilliant. Yeah. Well, that sounds nice. You mentioned before as well that you mentioned you did a little bit of hard bidding yourself. At the minute, Dustin, like 85+% of all projects being delivered are through a collaborative delivery model. How important is that communication piece and that collaboration piece?
So people do need to qualify that number, by the way. It is 85% of project volume, like the dollar value, not the total number of projects. But when you're in that space, that collaborative space, why it's so important is precon's average duration gets expanded. And the problem when precon's average duration gets expanded, everyone says, oh, there's cost savings down here. But there's also decision paralysis that takes place during these cycles because there's this constant passing the ball back and forth. And if we can, our goal is to actually stop this precon expansion process and hopefully get some contraction, right? It's almost like we need to be the Fed and stop this inflation we're seeing in our precon. So why it's so challenging right now is designers design without not understanding cost implications. And so they return a product and then the GCs have to inform them what their options are to bring that down. It would be better, in my experience, if the GCs could estimate in such a way that it would explain to the architect their swim lanes a little more efficiently so that they don't design in a way that gets the cost 20 to 50% higher than the client's expecting. So a way to communicate what are the cost drivers here.
Yeah, and that seems to be happening more and more. The GCs, the VPs, the directors listening to that will be saying, oh yeah, we're seeing more of that. We're seeing us getting in earlier, the trade partners getting in earlier, almost helping the designers with the decisions rather than them making the decisions, then go back and getting changes. So, I mean, it's that speed to getting the right design at the right cost quicker.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the designer's business to know what it costs to build something. So it's kind of illogical how we tend in construction to lead with design first. And if you think about it, it doesn't make sense at all. You should lead with, okay, what's my target cost here? Like how much am I willing to spend? And then the GC can tell you, this is what you can buy. And then the designer should follow up, okay, let me try to see if I can design to all those parameters. That would be the ideal state.
Yeah, and do you think we're moving towards that? I mean, obviously working closely with Suffolk and other clients that you have right now.
I think we are. It's funny because I also see the startup community from that's focusing on Revit to the cloud or some of these other things, and they still believe that everything will be designed first, and then that will. No, at the end of the day, I really hope we move to a contractor-led design development process. I think it would be much more efficient. I think it would also de-risk the project for clients and give the clients de-risk it by both time to completion and cost and certainty of delivery. So it just makes a lot more sense.
Yeah,
we are moving.
There seems to be like almost that trust now from the developer to get their trusted GC on repeat business, being able to give them the brief, but also for the GC to be able to continually update, whether it be on a piece of software, continually update the developer on kind of schedule, costs, risks, all of that.
Yeah, so I have a couple thoughts there. One, in this collaborative environment, if you look at any of the estimating solutions that exist in the market today, they weren't designed for that. They were designed to estimate an event in that one set of plans. They don't think of supporting you across that process. And so that's structurally a way we're thinking about it differently. Estimating or precon is a process. Estimating can just be an event. And so we're trying to get away from that paradigm. The second thing that I wanted to comment on, every GC, when early on, let's say you want to build a general contractor, you're going to start out, you're going to do some hard bid projects. That's just a fact of life. But in an ideal world, you're probably going to want to progress where you have negotiated work, where clients are giving you projects because they trust you. And so how do you earn their trust? That's a question we ask ourselves when we're thinking about our software. Well, everyone understands that construction is going to have cost impacts, but helping you clearly explain to your client when you're going through those design processes what changed and pointing to the reason why is super important. And so, sorry, you froze for a second, so I thought we had cut out. But yeah, we want to support anyone that uses our software to efficiently communicate with their client so that they never lose the trust of that client. And that means eliminating surprises. Surprises will come up, but showing where the surprise specifically came from and the reasons why your assumptions leading up to that surprise did not hold true.
Yeah, I love it. And I can hear estimators and pre-construction managers shouting at the podcast and saying, yes, this is what we need. What's the best way to get in contact with Ediphi? I mean, obviously you're building a team right now. Oh yeah, just before we give out the contact information, how important, where are you at right now with the development of the project? What's the next stage? As an entrepreneur that's building connected, is it expanding the team? Is it solidifying the product itself?
So we actually just did a lot of hiring. I mean, we still have more hiring to do. We're about 30 with contractors, 35-ish people. So we grew that from 2 about a year ago. So it's been a lot of hiring to go from 2 to 35. I would say that we are much farther along than a company would be, considering we've been formed less than a year ago. We are taking on enterprise customers right now. We're in a number of pilots with some of the largest GCs in America. By and large, everyone loves what we're saying. We're certainly not the solution for everyone. And so if you ever talk to us, we'll tell you what we're really great at, and we'll tell you what we're going to get to next year. And then you can decide if you want to be on the train now or on the train at the next stop. But I always think I'd rather be early actually at a party than late. So I don't know.
I like that as well. But who's your perfect customer? Who's your perfect general contractor? What they do?
Yeah, it is those people that value data transparency, data interoperability, to be able to connect those dots. Because right now we can provide you API access to your estimate, and so that you could connect it anywhere, so that you could run your own dashboards. Anyone that wants to, start building that structure within their organization, especially people with distributed teams, we're going to be very, very efficient there. And then anyone who is looking to do a lot more conceptual, programmatic, parametric estimating very quickly, we're going to be really, really good at it.
Brilliant. I love it. And listen, the best way to contact you, I will obviously, any information I'll put in the show notes. So anybody listening to this going, I got to speak with Ediphi, I got to speak with Dustin's sales team. Where's the best way to get in touch?
Dustin@ediphi.com.
Perfect. I will put that in the show notes. Dustin, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Hey, man. It's great.
Yeah, really thank you. I mean, we obviously didn't get a chance to speak at Advancing Pre-Construction. Obviously, there was a lot of buzz about yourselves and a few of the other firms. Really looking forward to seeing you hitting the market and getting out there.
Okie dokie.